Okay, I think we're live. Hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse, welcome back to the chart stream. My name's Brogan, and today we've got an exciting one. Okay, finally, after strenuous amounts of streams, I've been waiting for something to happen on the high time frame, and finally we are here. Finally, we've done something worthwhile. Hopefully we've all done well in this little uptick. Hopefully there is a little more soon to come. Hopefully you're all good as well, I should mention. Hopefully you've had a good and if you joined last stream, which was yesterday, which was our quiz, that was a bit of a palaver at the intro. Obviously my camera, I should say, wasn't working, but we're here now, and you can see me with my bucket hat on and all that, which is what I was trying to wear last stream before my camera just failed to work. But nonetheless, I was gonna say something. Yeah, so we've had quite a lot of streams where we've been talking about this sort of move to happen, and finally we're here. And yeah, but obviously since last stream, we're going to be going over some quite a bit of new TA again. Last time we streamed was Monday, so we've got quite a lot to talk about, especially on the high time frames for the data. This is what we're waiting for. The main topics across the charts was basically we're in this area. Eventually, we're going to break up and go towards some higher targets. I didn't care the exact indicator when we're going to do that. I would rather trade the move back down from a short-term high rather than a, because we're at kind of current period super lows. It's hard to indicate exactly when we're going to go back upwards, especially it seems that we're kind of range bound for a long period of time. Although I am considering the idea that we have formed a bit of a consolidation period. We're going to be the idea of a consolidation, manipulation, distribution, and that being we've formed a bit of a consolidation here, manipulating upwards and finding our lower high in this period, and then obviously distributing downwards and going to a new lower low is the idea. Because again, if you think about it, we've had the weekly. You know what? No, I'm going to cut myself short there because I need to. I need to look at the chart. Okay, I'm just talking at you guys with all my words, and some of you aren't native English speakers, so I might be talking way too fast, and I need to slow down. Okay, we're gonna get to the charts and what I'm thinking in a minute. So, CoinGlass, we have about 467 million liquidated, a lot more short than long, which kind of makes sense. Again, we've gone up quite a bit, so obviously it makes sense that we've liquidated more shorts than we have long because we've gone up. Other than that, again, don't really care. In terms of data, I want to see what's going on. It's the 5th today. We've got NFP data tomorrow, which is the only thing of real importance, apart from maybe inflation and things like that. It's basically NFP and unemployment is kind of the don't trade today type of thing. So, yeah, so there's that, I guess. But other than that, there's not really too much else going on. So, yeah, tomorrow I would watch out for that, I suppose. I don't know what the forecast is. NFP, so a lot lower than 130k. That's all I can see. So, anyways, yeah, there we go. Tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. my time, which is UTC +1. I think I'm still UTC +1 because I know I'm Central Eastern Standard Time. I'm pretty sure that's still UTC +1, and it doesn't matter. Let's go to the CoinMarketCap. It doesn't matter. 72,400. Okay, pretty good. A lot higher than where we were. We were about 68 last stream, something like that. Doing pretty well. About 1.63% up on the 24-hour. 6.53% up on the 7-day. Very, very good to see that there. 21,118, or 21,18, I should say, for Ethereum. 3% up. 24-hour, only 2.7 on the 7-day there. Solana, we are at $91.4, or $91.40. 2%. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. 2% 24-hour, 4.3 on the 7-day. I'm losing it. Syrup, though, this is what I do want to look at. 24 cent, not bad. Again, we haven't had massive rips up yet or anything of the sorts, but I am very excited for Syrup because, again, yesterday I was talking again. If you were on the quiz stream, saying tomorrow, aka today, I would be looking at Syrup, which I always do. So I'm very interested to look at Syrup again. Haven't seen it since Monday, and we are at. I'm very excited for it on the long term. I'm excited for everything on the long term to see how it transpires. However, Syrup I'm very excited about because this is a move we've done. I'm going to get to it, obviously, when we get to it near the end of the stream. A move we've talked about since the all-time high, or since near the all-time high. June last year, maybe, or something like that. This is a price I've wanted to come to for a long time, about 22 to 20 cents. And from there, the implications of what we've got to, and if we can start to reverse long term, it means we should probably be aiming for new all-time highs for SIRP. Now, again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Look at me. Do I look like a financial advisor in a suit and everything? No. I'm in a bucket hat and a black t-shirt, right? Which is actually a Binance one. But I don't know if you can see the words with the camera. Anyways. So I'm obviously not a financial advisor. However, these are my opinions. But I'm very excited, nonetheless. Anyways, other than that, WorldUT Financial, about 10.3. Again, not really much movement there. I think we've been talking about 14.5 cents would be a good target, I would suspect. Again, we have printed lower on the weekly, which we've looked at quite a few streams now. We've printed lower on the weekly, which means long term we should still be aiming for a low. However, we haven't had that lower high yet. So I'm still expecting a bit of a relief back up towards some higher prices for WorldUT Financial before we go down even lower to about maybe 8.5 cents. So anyways, let's go to the charts now. So I don't know how ugly this is going to look. Okay, it's not that bad. I'm going to hide this all for now, and then we can talk about... I'll keep the ranges up, whatever. Doesn't matter. And let's just kind of like go on the weekly for now. So we've wanted this for a bit now. What did I say? Okay, I do kind of want this back up. So, excuse the ugliness. I don't know how ugly it is. I have a blue light filter on my monitor because, you know, I've looked at my monitor for a long period of time. I don't want all the blue light burning as much. But so it doesn't look that ugly because it's a bit yellow. It's kind of like a nice warm tone. But it might look really ugly on your stream, on your charts, or your screen, I should say. Fine. But nonetheless, I can recognize the how ugly this is. But I will try and explain it and what I'm looking at. So this blue area, we have all these little areas. This is all the kind of 1 hour, you know, shenanigans going on. I should go to 4 hours because you can't really see it. All these, you know, this is all the shenanigans going on in all these little like areas here, you know, supports, resistances, all that sort of stuff. But the main one we kind of have on the long term is this blue area. Now, it is a very big area. I understand that. This is a rejection block, right? Do I sell or hold? In terms of Bitcoin, I would personally hold a tiny bit longer. Could this kind of rally here be the only rally? Potentially. I think we could probably compare to previous rallies. We had about a 21.5%. This is actually higher. Yeah, okay, this is actually higher. Yeah. Fine. Yeah, whatever. I was trying to see if there's a comparison there. I know, and maybe I'm wrong, and this is why it's not financial advice. Maybe this is because again there is a weekly gap here. You know, this is a print through weekly gap. This is valid. I can't ignore that, right? So I am fully aware of the fact that this is a gap. Now, I would preferably want a bit of a stronger, like in terms of a actual retracement for this, I would want it to be a bit higher before we had a big move down again. Now that might be a personal thing, but this is what I think, obviously on my non-financial advice opinion, long or short. So this is what I'll say. There's a lot of people who think this, you know, 74.5, 74, where we are now, is the high, and we are going to dump immediately after this. That's their thing. I'm more on the side that we go towards a bit higher. Now, it might be delusional. That's my opinion. I might be completely wrong. And we just get to here. I'm thinking more 80,600 at least, or 80,624 within this gap. Not this gap here. This gap. This next one up on the weekly. Now, again, I could be wrong. Not financial advice. What I would say is, it's safer to not take a trade. And if you look at 3 different streamers, me and 2 other people, I'm saying one thing, the other 2 are saying the same thing. Maybe that's the best thing to do, is to listen to them, right? But my opinion is, I think we go higher. But on the proviso that a lot of people think we aren't going to go higher, and I could be wrong, what I'll say is, it's safer to take a trade if we're already at this high, downwards, than it is to take a trade up to it. Because, again, my indication is we do go higher, but it's not, again, nothing's ever a guarantee. But what I would say is, if we did get to this price, I'm pretty sure we're going to go down after this. But again, like I said, a lot of people think 74, and I'm not saying I'm talking about this, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I take that. You know, I've been wrong before, I've been right before. It's more about the balance between how wrong and right you are, and how you utilize that. Again, obviously your risk-reward ratio. That's all that really matters. Again, you can have, you know, 20% win rate trade or strategy, and still be very profitable, or you can have a 80% win rate and still be very unprofitable. It depends on how you use your data. There's 2 parts. There's the data or the opinion you form, and then how you use it, right? So this is the thing. But so I'm just prefacing, I can be wrong, and I have been wrong before, just like mostly every other charter out there. So like I said, if we did get to this price, and this is what I'm saying, if you long up to 81k, like, oh, I'm going to listen to this guy, even though he says it's not financial advice, I'm going to take this as financial advice. I'm going to listen to him. I'm going to blame him if it goes wrong, right? I'm going to long up to 81k, and if it doesn't go right, I'm going to hate him for the rest of my life. You can do that. You can do that. But it's safer, right? It's more on the probabilities, statistically, is going to be more likely that you will be successful if you've already taken that lower high than it is to go up to that lower high on the proviso that there's a lot of presumption that we go here. And I'll talk about last time. I wanted this to potentially go a bit higher. Again, on the daily time frames, we were valid in a range perfectly. On the weekly, I would have liked a bit more of a retracement back up towards, I can't remember exactly what price it was. Yeah, it was about, like, I don't know if it was any gap here. To be fair, I mean, it wasn't too much to be fair on the weekly, but I would like to a bit more of it. Maybe into this candle a bit more. Maybe to 101, I think it was, or 100k. I can't remember exactly what I said at the time. But I did want a bit more of a retracement during this weekly period, and we didn't have that. Again, we had a lot of validity on the weekly, to be fair. We did have this gap. We did have a lot on the daily. And in the range on the daily, in terms of here, we were valid. We were above the equilibrium, right? I know this is all a lot of words which might not make a lot of sense. But I did want to move upwards, and we didn't have that. And same story here. Maybe it's another scenario where I do want more of a move upwards, which we don't quite have. But I think the difference here with the weekly is we do have resistance on both valid ends. Looking at the daily here, I do want to look at the range on the daily, and we can see we do need to get up. And this is in theory, obviously not financial advice, but look at what we have, right, on the daily. I know the weekly we have a gap, right? But what do we have? We have a gap in where we are and a gap above us. If we go down to the daily, we don't have anything on the daily in where we are. The best we've got is a bit of an order block here at 74.5, 77-ish, right? If we use the candle body, that is. That's the best we have. So even on the weekly we have a gap, which, again, I could be wrong here, not financial advice. Even though we have a gap on the weekly, we don't have anything on the lower time frames, which is fine, but we want the most sound places possible, right? We want the most likelihood chance to get it right, I suppose. Now, if we look higher up, towards the 80, what have I been talking about? 80,600 at least, 81k preferably. This is kind of where we are. We have a gap here on the daily, for example. We have a bit of a resistance here, 79.4 to 81.2. We do have something there. And we do have one a bit higher to 85. I don't personally think we'll get to 85, but we do have this gap here. Now, let's think as well. Remember what I was talking about with the ranges. We had this previous range, and we were perfectly fine. The only reason I wanted higher on this range was the weekly, and I took more weight on the weekly. But if you look at the daily, we were perfectly fine with our operation. We went to the high to the low, we went above equilibrium into a gap, and then we came down. It was really, really beautiful price action, right? Same story here. We go to the high from the high to the low. We look at, if I can actually click it, please. High to the low. We want to aim towards equilibrium, right? We want to aim a tiny bit above equilibrium at least. That's going to be at least above 78,944-ish, right? So that's kind of the, quote-unquote, the area we want to be. Sorry, I know as soon as I move a tiny bit back away from my mic, it all just goes pants, right? It all just goes way too quiet. But I do want to go, we do want to go towards at least equilibrium in theory, not financial advice. So with this idea in mind, would we want to actually stop where we are now, or would we want to go higher? Now, I'm not saying we're going to go up and print above this gap at 75.8 and then use it as support and whatever. I think we can get above it, maybe even print in within it. But I definitely think we want to get. I personally think we do want to get up a bit higher than where we are, 80,600 at least. I don't know if some people think 85. I'm not sure on the stats. I know me and Mike are kind of in tandem, I believe. I don't know if he thinks 70 something. I know a lot of people are quite negative right now, or perceivably negative. And again, the market's always kind of moving opposite to everybody else. You see a lot of people online say one thing, and it always is the opposite thing, right? Which makes sense. Again, the money, right? If you think the more and more institutionalized crypto and especially Bitcoin has got, we kind of start to have the same problems which is in traditional finance or traditional stocks or forex or anything you might trade, whatever it may be, which is the idea of where the profitability lies and who's getting the profit, basically. And then obviously you've got the quote unquote, you hear retail, retail, this, that, the other, retail, and it kind of sits within traditional. So I might be completely wrong here, obviously not financial advice. But, you know, who's winning really, right? There's always the big people behind the doors, behind the curtains. And, you know, I feel like you can kind of translate this. If we look online, sometimes I'll look on Twitter to see some other opinions, see what's going on. And a lot of the time, maybe I'm looking at the wrong people, it's always wrong. And there was that thing, you know, a long period of time ago. I believe there was a study. This guy, or this trader people, I don't know who exactly they were. They basically, all they did was they took the opposite trades of like 10 different traders, or a group of 10 traders. They got the average, or the mean of 10 different traders and just trade the opposite. Whatever they did the opposite. And they were way more profitable than the actual traders themselves. So, you know, the idea that a lot of people, it's very hard to be profitable. And a lot of people get it wrong. So to look at a wide array of opinions on Twitter, where the most likely chance is some of these people are going to be wrong, and everyone's saying the same thing. And I've seen this before, and it's not like I'm speaking from randomness. I have seen this before on Twitter, where a lot of people across the board are all saying the same thing, and it's not happened. And it's done not exactly what those people are saying, right? And again, maybe I'm talking in a bit of a paradox here, because maybe I'm the person who's getting it wrong and I don't see it yet. But I see a lot of people saying we're going to get into this gap and we're going to dump. Maybe that happens, maybe, right? But structurally, we're perfectly fine. We've only just broken up. I've just moved my thing. Let me move that back. There we go. We've only just gotten above the highs, right? We've just printed above this 72 high. If you think about the whole range we had, we're doing well, right? We had this range. You know, obviously, I know we haven't printed above this high, but, you know, we're doing pretty well. In terms, and again, structurally, we are at a position of, you know, extreme low. So I don't personally think this is going to be any sort of high long term. Again, the ranges. I've used the ranges on every kind of tick here. We had this range here, which got back above, I believe, actually. Let me go. Yeah, we got literally to the 0.5 by a smidgen, right? This one here, 0.5. You can see them drawn out, right? This one was very, I will say though, this one was a bit shaky. I'm not going to lie. But this one, look, equilibrium's here. We got to it. Equilibrium's here. We literally tickled it, right? Equilibrium's here. We got above it. This is standard procedure, premium discount. I mean, there's obviously people talk about different things. There's like deep retracements for deep premiums and all that sort of stuff. But the basis is equilibrium. And at one point, you can look at this and see where the rough equilibrium is going to be, right? And you can kind of eyeball it, right? So you can kind of see, obviously I know I'm kind of biased here because I've already drawn it out, but you can kind of see, if you draw this to this, you can see around about here is going to be the midpoint of it, right? But the idea is, on every tick of a down move, and you see this across every time frame, is you want to get towards the equilibrium, right? On every valid move. Now, what can happen is sometimes you don't get towards it, and you have a period where you've moved up, moved down, you know, normal equilibrium, moved up. You don't get anywhere near equilibrium, you go up again, and then you dump to that equilibrium and then continue higher, right? So I see that, you know, doesn't happen too often, but that has happened before, where people will be looking at a trend, seeing a higher low, and then a really higher low, and then a lower low, technically, because of this retracement, and then we continue going higher. Now, obviously, it's not never ever perfect, but that sort of trend, right, where we don't necessarily have a failure anyway. And again, it's always weighted on the lows or the highs of this period. Again, if you're looking at bull trends, the higher highs are very important. However, my personal weighting is more on the higher lows. High lows are very important in an uptrend. This is, again, you can have, we can see, actually, even case in point, every period here, for example, we're in an uptrend, clearly, in this period. We're clearly printing higher than all these. What do we see with all these highs here, though? We haven't actually printed any new highs, but we're still in an uptrend, because what happens? We have higher lows every time. We haven't printed any new higher lows. So even in this period where, even here, for example, we even had equal highs. This is a very bad sign, or a very, very bad sign. Now, yes, equal highs and a gap, we did finally dump. This is showing signs that we're pretty negative. Sweeping equal highs here and coming into a gap and being above equilibrium, this is a perfect, beautiful area, right? And then obviously we printed through this gap, obviously very bad sign. Anyways, but we can see with this high, we didn't even do a new high. We literally did equal highs, but we had this liquidity void here, for example, which you can see we filled. Or if we go to a weekly, we probably had a gap here, right? We filled it, we came upwards again, because the weighting, again, higher highs and higher lows, they're both equally as important. However, or, you know, a lot of people say they're equally important. However, the higher lows are very, very important. I think more important than anything else. Anyways, off topic. I do think we'll have that retracement. I think if we compare on the daily, now that the weekly, again, high time frames. High time frames are very important. Again, weekly to daily, I would never just blindly, constantly, always look at the weekly and go, okay, no matter what the daily says, I'm always going to look at the weekly. Because, yes, we are in a gap, but daily time frame, we have this range. I'm harping on. I'm starting to harp on. When I can tell I'm starting to repeat myself, I need to start moving on. But, again, we can see, clear as day, we have respected these ranges since the all-time high. Give or take. Again, I know this is a flaky one. This equilibrium was maybe $200 off. Actually, no. Yeah, $200 off. Maybe I drew it wrong. Maybe I'm a fool. But we didn't quite get that there. Other than that, though, we've had very, very completely fine usage of equilibrium. Now, again, in some of these areas, we did come up into this kind of order block area where we found resistance, but we didn't quite get into an optimum area. We didn't get into much of a important resistance apart from that gap here at 98, which is obviously what we're talking about at the time. Nonetheless, though, same story here. I don't see why any of these scenarios would be any different. And you can see this on the way upwards, right? We can see these trends on the way upwards quite easily, right? So from here, and again, sometimes you can gap away, which obviously is a thing we can sometimes say, obviously. But pretty much, if you're in a very tight uptrend, you're probably more often than not going to be seeing these equilibriums being touched. So out of these three, apart from this slight $200 miss, which I would consider, we're basically in there, we've pretty much got equilibrium every single time in this downtrend, right? And it's the same here. And I don't know why this would be any different. Because, again, I know we've printed negative on the weekly. That doesn't affect how we move on the intricacies on the daily and the 4 hour. It just determines that on the long time, on the higher time frame, on the long term, we're going to be continuing to go down. This print on the start of February, probably the most negative thing. Apart from obviously this massive movement, this basically respawned an entire move downwards, right? If we didn't do this and have this print at 74.4, we would be a lot better than where we are. However, we had this print. Simple as. It's negative. It's not over, but there you go. We also have a breaker block here, actually, to be fair, which actually also sits at the area. But it's 82.8, I will say. 82.8. If we did the candle bodies, where is it going to be? About 82.2 as well. So we do have, and also we're in breaker block area. This is a breaker block. We have you have an order block, which has been used as support previously, which then has been reversed, and resistance. We also have a mitigation block here, which is this range here, which I think we're going to be using. And so basically, it's not much of a, we're definitely going to use the lowest resistance. It's more of a, we want to get into in this range. So our minimum is 80,640, however this is exactly. We have a breaker block here with these two candles. We have this massive gap on the weekly. We have the gap on the daily here. We also have this kind of equilibrium idea where we need to get back up into equilibrium. We have triple highs here at 79k. We have a lot going on in this $80,000 area. Again, 80,000 psychological area maybe as well. You can consider. There's so much stacking, in my opinion, that I would love to see 80,000, 81,000. And I think if we do get to this area, I do think this is a sell point. I do think this is a lower high. Again, a lot of people are thinking a lot of different prices. I do want us to come down again. Obviously, I don't know where exactly other people think. I do want to come to the midpoint of this. 52.5 is another target, I think, for a new low. Maybe not a new. We could maybe come lower, to be fair. But that, I think, is a very good target, again, to come lower. But other than that, that is my opinion. Again, it's not much of an update since last stream, to be fair, because, we're only starting to come into TA, or we're only coming to price action we've already talked about, right? So we've already kind of planned this out, right? We've already planned out, or I've already planned out my opinion and how I think this is all going to move. So I don't see much TA to talk about, apart from us printing high on the 4 hour. And yes, obviously we've already reversed. We had we printed higher here, which was a good sign. We kind of had a low, a high, a low, a kind of a lower high period where we kind of printed upwards. We've obviously printed through this gap, which was very important, which we had a resistance at. We used it as support. We then printed higher. we can then see we had these resistances, which then once we printed through, we can see a little tickle backwards, but then we just continue to go back upwards. Very importantly as well, we have a previous order block here, or on the 1 hour previous order block, we can see we've retraced into not only a gap here, but also a previous order block with these highs at 72k. So I do think we are going to be continuing higher towards the next high. We could even retrace, to be fair. If we really look at it, the equilibrium is going to be sitting around here, 70,667. So we do also have previous resistances here. For example, we have these green candles. If we just draw the candle bodies for now, we do have these 2 resistances here. If I make this a different color, let's say, not a blue, because we already have blue, but a purple. We don't really have purple yet. So we can see, I know it's getting very messy, I should probably delete some of this. We do obviously have this support here on the 1 hour, but on the 4 hour we can see we have this move upwards. We have it coming into here. So this could also be a propulsion block, but we also have this high, which we can see we take with this move, and then we print through, and we can see 3 times previously, we have used this area as a resistance area. 3 times before. Obviously we've printed through it now, which is very good. So on the concept that we want to see, you know, low to the high kind of equilibrium area, we want to kind of come into this 70,300 gap, for example. We could see support at that order block as well. So we have support. We're in a good uptrend. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a bit of retracement nonetheless, because again, we want to have a solid uptrend. We don't want to be seeing, you know, moves like this where we have these little tiny moves where we just dump through it really quickly and then just absolutely rip, which obviously eventually we want to see. We do want to see a move downwards, but again, 4 hour daily. Even right now where we are on the 4 hour, we don't have anything apart from maybe a gap at 75k. We actually don't have anything apart from the weekly. There's no gap where we are. On 80,000, 81,000, we have a pretty good gap area, a whole kind of liquidity void area on the 4 hour. We have the daily gap, we have the weekly gap, we have the daily breaker block, or the weekly breaker block, I should say. We have so much. We obviously have the mitigation block as well. We have so much at 80,000 to 81,000 that I really just think it's going to be there, and that's it. I'm so adamant on it. Obviously not financial advice, but this is my opinion, and this is where I think. Anyways, I've yapped 33 minutes, not bad. I do normally spend about half of it going through this. Anyways, going to Ethereum now. Let's go to the weekly. So yeah, pretty much same story on the weekly here. Weekly's pretty good. Again, apart from this daily print on the weekly, we have printed at the expansion line, and we haven't printed lower than it, which is a slight good sign, I would say. Again, this range, it's I would say this isn't quite the range for this time frame. I would say it's a range higher. So if we look at the 6561 for this area, we can see we're doing pretty fine. Again, we're on the lower end of this range. We have a breaker block here, which I don't really see too much of a difficulty. We do have a breaker block here, to example. So we have breaker block area. We also have this breaker block candle here, which you can see comes up into 20,000 or no, 2,400. Change the color of this to make it a bit easier to see or differentiate. Let's do... I don't know, actually. That's ugly. Not bad. Can't find a nice colour. I just want a different colour which isn't, you know, garish. Let's just do this yellow. It's pretty horrible, whatever. So, we have a breaker block. What is a breaker block? It's an order block which has been printed through. That's it, really. We are in a breaker block area. You can see BR. This is doing pretty well. We have the equilibrium. We also have wider range equilibrium, which is resistance at 2,692. We have breaker block midpoint around about 2,398, which just so happens to be the open of this gap, which is in between 2,400 and 2,782. We also, if we go to the daily, again, difference. What's the difference here? Same with Bitcoin. We have a weekly gap here. Everyone around the world, oh my god, here we come, 2,170. We're going to see resistance. We're going to dump. Okay, cool. Same thing we have on 2,400, 2,500. Daily, what do we have? Nothing. We don't have anything here. There's nothing here. We have mitigated every sort of gap possible. We haven't done anything here. The best we have is maybe a resistance at 2,273. That's it. What do we have where we want to go to? We have a beautiful looking gap at daily. Look, this is what is marked out. Very absolutely perfectly fine. 2,600 area. And again, the mitigation is 2,627 is kind of the area. But again, it's this gap, right? It's this area. 2,400, 2,600. 4 hour, what do we have? We don't have anything. We have maybe a little gap. We do have this gap at 2,208. That's it, though. And again, obviously, we can see. I'm not going to go through it all because, like I said, each and every one of these charts is basically the same. We have previous order blocks. I think this might be a 1 hour thing here. Yeah, we have a 1 hour gap here, for example. We can see formed an order block here. Resistance, midpoint there, 2092. Resistance again here. Resistance again. Print through, support. Perfectly fine. Yeah, really good price action. So apart from that 2209 gap, I don't see much else. And do I really think a 2216, 2220 gap is going to cause us to come down all the way past our 1750 low? No, I don't think so. So apart from that, we have obviously this kind of big old gap range on the 4 hour. So 4 hour, daily, weekly, we all have a gap in this range. So this is my argument. This is why I'm arguing against these people who are saying right where we are now, in this first initial gap on the weekly, we are going to see this resistance and dump again. I think it's higher. I think we have a bit more of a relief rally higher towards 2500, 2400, 2600, wherever it may be exactly. I do think we're getting to this area because of the fact that apart from the weekly, there's no gaps anywhere in this range. We've only just started to move upwards. And again, I'm going to reiterate it so many times. We have our range. We're in the range. Again, this is a bit of a choppy range. You know, we did have this area here, which we did fill. We stayed in this range for a bit. I will not lie. We had this range here, equilibrium, range here, equilibrium. Didn't print lower. Perfectly fine. Once you've seen that that high, you short to the low. Now, yes, we did come down, came into this order block here. Let me draw it out. Here we go. Came into this order block here, found support, and then pumped again. Fine. But eventually, we came back up into this equilibrium area, and eventually we printed lower. Okay, so it was a bit of a choppy one, I won't lie. It wasn't the best equilibrium, but we have these ones up here. Very good equilibrium. We have this high to low, which, again, we didn't get through the low. So we just wait. Boom. Low here, finally. High to low. Boom. Tickled that high right there. I'm not going to lie. Tickled that equilibrium. Dumped. So it's a process, right? It's a process. It's not a guarantee. You don't just short the equilibrium and guarantee a trade. But, I mean, to be fair, this one, you know, this was a very good range. I would have shorted here, for sure. Right? Even with this candle print where we had a wick past this high. This is a very good print, right? Nonetheless, though, we come down nonetheless, right? So same thing here. High to low. Where is that equilibrium? Where's that equilibrium? Where can we see that equilibrium? Whoops. Let's go back to here quickly. There we go. Where do we see this equilibrium line? 2577. This low, we've only just started trying to get above the previous high at 2146. Why would we see a long-term higher time frame resistance and dump to 1700 immediately? We have barely even gone up. Maybe I'm an idiot. That could be a case. Maybe I'm an idiot. We've barely even tried to get above. You know, we have a lot of gaps here, and on the daily, yes, we haven't printed yet on the daily above 2149, right? Okay, fine. But again, 4 hour, we have a lot of support within this range, 207 areas. We have support in this range. I do think we'll have a bit of retracement. We then will go higher. We are in an uptrend on the 4 hour, technically. We have printed higher than our long-term highs at 2149, which we've been kind of putting in these highs since the 8th of February, right? So it's been a long time coming. So since then, I don't know why we would stop here. We've only just started to move upwards. Just started. Like, barely even got anywhere, right? And again, we've had this rejection block, which I haven't actually drawn here, but we've had this rejection block for so long now, where that's what I've been saying, we're going to be printing above this midpoint of this rejection block, and eventually we're going to print a weekly green candle, and from there, we're going to go upwards to our short-term high. I've been saying this pretty much every stream. I don't even know how many times. I've said this every stream. I've said, okay, cool. We have this rejection block. We're going to be printing above this midpoint, which was, you know, let's say around 1900 in this case for Ethereum. Eventually, we're going to be printing a green candle, and from there, we'll be continuing higher towards our short-term highs before we go down even lower. And that's it. So that's it for Ethereum. Again, there's not really much else to talk about. I could talk about where I think the next low is going to be. Again, you know, 1300's a bit of a low. We probably can come past 1384. I do want to go into a range lower just to see what we've kind of got going on. We have our previous low at 1395, which would be a good thing to wick past. I would argue we might want to see some area of resistance is probably what I would argue. So, for example, we can see we have these green up close coming into kind of this gap. We also have this order block here. We can see we have an order block here. We then have a proportion block here, which forms, and you can see we formed a bit of resistance. So these two green candles, we can see we kind of came back up into them a bit. If we go to the candle bodies anyway, we can see kind of came back into it. And then from there, we have eventually reversed it from this equilibrium. But what do we have? What does this say? A breaker block, right? So this kind of was, set in stone, right? So we have this range here, this previous range, where we have whatever it may be within this range as a support point. Either low at 12.56, we have midpoint at 14.55, which you can see we've used previously in this kind of rough area. We've used this before. We've also kind of mainly just got a nice gap area, which we've used twice, which again kind of goes as low as 1295. So we've got 1300. I think is going to be a very good, longer term low. I've got a very not stuffy, but blocked nose, but it's not blocked. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, yeah. That's it really. 2600. I'm not going to talk too much about my long-term lows because we haven't really got there yet, and I do want to move on to Solana because it's 24. I've got 24 minutes left. I've got 24 minutes left. I need to slow down a bit. Solana. Now the thing is with Solana here is we can't really zoom in. It's glitched. Look, if I go to it, you can see it just zooms in. So I have to look at the weekly here, which is fine. So let's just go to a bit of a higher range, see what we've got going on. So what do we have? I don't think this is a shift or anything. Good. We've had our previous equilibrium. We don't really have much on this range because this isn't really a very good range for this. That's too high. Whoops. There we go. Perfect. So we've obviously talked previously about rejection block within this high. We've obviously talked about us printing at this high, doing very, very well. We have the gap. We don't really much to be fair. Apart from the equilibrium at $114, I generally just think it's going to be about 111. What do we have as well? We have a breaker block, right? So these candles spawn in breaker block, and we probably have to go a range higher to see. I don't know if this is going to be a breaker block or not. So you can see as well, yeah. So we have a bit of a mitigation block, which kind of looks like what we've got going on, right? So we can see we have taken this high, and we've taken that low of this range. So actually, it should probably be the candles, right? It should probably be the whole wicks as well. I'm just going to draw the bodies because this was a order block which we used previously, which we can see we came to the midpoint once before, 120, before we came upwards past these highs and dumped again. This is now going to be resistance. We've printed through it. So anywhere at the midpoint, 119, basically anything in this range, even 106 coming into it, right? So minimum 106, we have that bit of resistance. We have this gap at 111. Now, what do we see on the weekly? Same story. We have a gap here on the weekly, but if we go down, what do we see? The only out of all three, finally Solana, is the only one which actually has anything on the daily as a gap. We can see a gap, I will not lie. Other than that, though, we do have a big old gap here still at the daily, this big old range here. If we go to the 4 hour, we'll probably still have a gap here. We don't really have too much going on here on the 4 hour. We can see there's not really much of a gap on the 4 hour, but we do have one here at 111. So on the weekly, on this gap, what do we have? We have weekly and daily. What do we have on the one higher? We have weekly, daily, and 4 hour. So again, we have a bit more weighting on 111. So I do think, again, this stream's been going to be very boring, and it has been very boring so far because I'm talking about stuff I've already talked about for multiple streams now, and I'm also saying the same thing for every chart. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana all have the same charts. It's all the same process, right? They're all coming up into resistance areas. They're all coming up to lower highs. They're all probably going to do new lows. We've all printed weekly time frame. We've all printed past a major low. We're going to be seeing that retracement and come down again. It's pretty much what's going to happen. Obviously, we've also had that monthly print, which is obviously not very happy for us, which we can see on the monthly as well. We actually have a gap on the monthly. So we have a monthly gap, weekly gap, daily gap, 4 hour gap, all at 111, 112. Do we have that on Ethereum as well? We do. We have a monthly gap, weekly gap, daily gap, 4 hour on Ethereum. We also have the gap on the monthly, the weekly, the daily, the 4 hour. Pretty much every time frame which matters to a significant level, there is a gap where we are at on the monthly. Every single time, which is very, very beautiful. So again, do I think we're going to get to... Let's think. Okay, the weekly fills this gap at 96. Cool. That's not necessarily negative. There is resistance here, let's say. What's more negative? Us coming up into an area where there is sell at the monthly time frame, the weekly time frame, the daily time frame, the 4-hour time frame, probably the 1-hour time frame as well. Every time frame within the hours, days, weeks, and months all have a gap. You know what? Let's see. Do we have anything on the yearly? Let's see. 12 month. All right, not too much going on the yearly. That's fine. It'd be funny if there was something there. But yeah, there's so much. It's every single resistance pointer. It's all on top of each other. It's all at 112. So to come into this area, this is obviously a positive thing from where we are right now. To go up to 118, 100, whatever it is, 20%, very good, right? But it's such a negative thing. And I think everyone across the board is already on the assumption that we are going to go down. That's fine. I think everyone already thinks this. And I think that too. I think we're going to go down again past this line. But this again, feeds into that idea. The fact that we're going to come into an area where there is a gap of resistance on monthly, weekly, daily, 4-hour is a pretty strong sign that we're probably going to go down from that area. So to see that, I'm pretty confident we are going to see lower. And again, obviously, I've already talked about my $40, $39 areas. I've already talked about all these gaps and the liquidity voids. Okay, I don't need to talk about it again. So that's that. Now, again, like I said, I've gone quite fast through the stream because, number one, there's not that much to talk about. And number two, every coin's doing the same thing. So I don't want to necessarily end the stream early, but I might, because we kind of want the stream to last for an hour. So what I might cheat a bit. I'm going to do Syrup and Wallency Financial. If you got, actually, this is what I'll do. If you guys have any coins you want me to cover, put it in the chat. There's nobody on the YouTube. I think I can say that on Binance Square. Nobody's on YouTube. Fine. No one saw it. No one got notifications. That's fine. Whatever. There's people on Binance Square. Not, albeit, my camera's gone blue. Let me make it go not blue, please. There we go. There's albeit not that many people on Binance Square. However, for the people on Binance Square, if you're listening, do put a coin in the chat because I'm going to spend 5 minutes, 6 minutes looking at Syrup and Wallency Financial. I'm going to have 12 minutes to kill. I'm going to play the stream. If no one says anything, there's no coins by the time I finish Wallency Financial, I'm just going to play the outro for 10 minutes. And that's it. I'm just going to have to cheat. I don't care. All right? Sue me. Syrup. And I guarantee this. I'm going to spend a minute and a half on Syrup. Ish. I don't have much to talk about. Let's recap. If you've watched my stream a few months ago and you remember Syrup, but you don't remember what I was talking about, here is a 60-second summary. High, low, all-time high, printing past high. Positive. Retrace to do a higher low. Where? Below equilibrium, yes. What do we have on the weekly? Nothing apart from 22 cents. What's the idea then? We come from all-time high all the way down to 22 to 20 cents, and then we go back to do a new all-time high. And that's it. That's the explanation. That's all we've been doing ever since June time-ish. July time. Ever since July time, all this TA, all these random lines and colours and text and more lines, all this has led up to is for us to come down to 22 cents. That's all that I've wanted. This entire time is all that I've wanted is to go to 22 cents. Now again, what I'll say is the market outlook across the board is pretty bleak. And it feels funny in my bones to suggest that this coin is going to be going upwards constantly and the rest isn't. But I'm going to stick with my guns. I don't care. I'm going to stick with my guns because that's what I do. We had an order block gap 22 to 20 cents. We came as low as 19.3, whatever. Bish, bash, bosh. Yada, yada. I'm making random phrases to try and make some noise and wipe it off. But what's the important part? What do we see? What do we see? Very beautifully. We have a weekly order block where the weekly time frame is going to be using the weekly order block. I don't care what happens on the 4-hour on the weekly order block. I care what happens on the weekly with the weekly order block. So what do we see? We see a print at the midpoint at 22 cents. Or maybe, give or take 0.0008 pennies. We have printed, if we zoom out, it looks better. We have retraced into this gap and this order block. We printed at the midpoint, we're starting to go upwards. Yes, we do have this gap here. on the weekly, which doesn't really have much on the 4 hour of the daily, to be fair. There's not really much here. Maybe it's a bit of a tricky. But other than that, we don't have any gaps here. We don't have any gaps, no gaps. And technically, if we want to follow structure, which what we have here, we're going to want to see a retracement to equilibrium, which is 30.5 cents. What do we have apart from this? We have nothing. We have no gaps on the weekly. We have no resistance, apart from maybe a breaker block at 30 to 32 to 30 cents and an inverse gap at 30 cents. That's it. That's all we've got. So the chance that we print past this all and reverse and get past equilibrium and don't use any of it is decently likely. What we could do as well is retrace this area, do a higher low, and then print higher and start an uptrend from that. You know, we could do that as well. But all in all, I am pretty confident that we don't have... Again, look at Bitcoin, look at Ethereum, look at Solana. We have weekly, we have monthly, we have daily, we have 4 hour gaps, all at these areas. And in our way down. What's the coin which doesn't do that? Syrup. What's the coin that I want to go back to all-time highs? Syrup. It's like it's poetry. This is what I want. Every coin we've talked about today, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, they all have the gaps. Monthly, again I say it, monthly, weekly, daily, 4 hour. They all have it there, right? That's negative as hell. And on the way down, we have these gaps, all these gaps, right? We don't have this on Syrup. Look at Syrup. We don't have a gap. Apart from where we are, which if we go to the daily, 4 hour, and all that sort of stuff, we don't have anything. Monthly, yeah, we do have a bit of a gap, which we could come to fill. But apart from this area, we don't have anything here. Maybe some form of an order block somewhere, maybe. Maybe we didn't take this high. We didn't form one here. We didn't do anything here. Nah, not really much. So nothing really on the monthly of concern. Weekly, you know, whoops. I mean, even on the yearly, we're doing well. What do we have on the yearly? We have a down close candle, a up close candle which prints above it, which is an order block, and then a candle which retraces to the midpoint at 19 to about 2010. That's pretty good, isn't it? That's pretty good. So even the yearly is potentially positive. Monthly, it's just one big old gap we've filled. I don't even care about the order block. It's just one big gap. We have, what's the monthly? We have some down close, massive print higher for an uptrend. We then have a retracement to a higher low into possibly the biggest monthly gap I've ever seen in my life. Retraced into fill it. Potential to reverse now. It's so positive. If I don't want to sound like a little crybaby. If we don't go up to all-time highs or go up quite significantly for Syrup, I'm going to start to call for manipulation because everything we have on the chart is positive. Everything which I look at on a stream-to-stream basis, which most of the time goes pretty well. Again, there's times where where some things don't happen, but most of the time, especially since basically like the start of February, like since we came back basically, and I've been using these ranges again, we've been right mostly every stream of what we've talked about. So for me to talk about this on Syrup and it go wrong, there's got to be something awry. The yearly's positive, the monthly's got a gap we're in, the weekly's got a gap and an order block. The daily is probably going to have the gap as well. And, oh no, kinda. Not really, actually. Weekly and monthly and yearly, okay? So yes, again, we do have a little bit of a gap here. Maybe what happens is we come up into this gap, 26 cents. We come down to the low of this order block at 20 cents, 20 and 0.4 cents, and then we print higher. Maybe. All I'm going to call for on a base level is we see a reversal on Maple and we start to go upwards. That's what I want to see. What I want to see, maybe, is, you know, head and shoulder pattern. We see a bit of, maybe at this red area, you know, red area, we have previous big old gap here, midpoint around about there, we come down, we come upwards to do our little thingy, we find this gap again here, which is at 30 cents, we come upwards, we've had a head and shoulders, we've reversed, we've come upwards, and we're starting to go towards 67 cents. Here we go. Come on, Syrup. I'm seeing no coins. I am trying to take my time. I don't know how I've spent this long talking about Syrup because there's not that much to talk about. What was financial? There's, again, probably not much to talk about here. I can't remember exactly what ranges I'm on for this. I think it's like this or something. Yeah, maybe. I think, potentially. Yeah, it's looking around about like that. Oh, no. No. I think am I on low range? I can't remember this. I need to remember it in my brain. I should just draw them. Okay, here it is. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, high to low, perfect. So this is perfect. Yeah, so this is the perfect range here we have going on. I keep on puffing into the mic. Hopefully that's not too loud. Anyways, so this is a really good chart, I'd say. We're doing pretty well. We're doing fine, I'd say. We had, obviously, we had a bit of really negative stuff. We had this gap here, obviously. We've come up into it. We found resistance. We've come to extension line. We're back into our support area. You can see this order block here. You can see the midpoint being used quite nicely here. I do want to see a 14.5% retracement. Weekly, we're negative, right? Weekly, you can't ignore the negativity we have going on the weekly. Simply. I don't know what that is. I think that's extension line, yeah. So you can see with the extension line, so you can see what we've done, right? So we printed past extension line, not a very good sign. We then ripped upwards, which is very good. We printed past this extension line, very good. Obviously, it had resistance here, but the main thing being, we printed past 11.73 cent. Very important there. So from there, we know we're still in the range where the low is about 10.9. So we've come to extension, we've wicked to it, right? And we're at this support. So what I want to see us kind of come away from this area. I want to see us use this kind of gap order block. You can see we have a little bit of a gap here at about 10.46 cent, right? We have this order block area, midpoint about 10.39. I want to see this area being used as support. I want to see this. I want to see us come up from here. What do we have in this little downtrend we have? We can see, I want to look at every high and low, on the way. This is kind of what we have, right? So we can see we kind of have, in terms of, okay, if we let's go to the 4 hours so we can see the range. I just zoomed out on the page. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so we can see this in a lot more detail now. So in terms of the downtrend, what do we have? We have this, right? So we can see we printed past this low here, had a very small lower low, came up to the high at 10.94, have come down. We have seen a low, 10.33. We have seen it, but look at how we're printing. We're not absolutely ripping downwards. We're expanding upwards and retracing downwards. Like, look at our movements. We've got very expansive moves upwards and very slow moves back downwards. Quite expansive. And again, this is pretty fast to be fair. We did come off the high twice. We've come off the high twice here now. So we can see we're in this 4 hour or daily support. We have this whole gap area here as well, which is being used decently nice here at 10.28. I do want to see if we can have a little bit of a quote-unquote head and shoulders where we've kind of had this area where we've come upwards, let's say into 10.74, maybe 10.61, wherever it may be, and we don't print past this. What I would like to see, I would like to see an order block be formed because we are in order block area here. I want to see an order block be formed in somewhere here, maybe even with these down close. We print up above this candle, we form an order block here. We come upwards, use its support, and then come higher to have a head and shoulders to allow us to start to retrace back upwards towards some of our high areas. I do want to come to 14.5 cents. What I will say, though, to be fair, with World Financial, again, we're not exactly following the market trend. Again, if we compare Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and World Financial, we don't have much difference. We don't really have much going on, which is different from those in terms of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, like I said. Syrup and Wealthy Financial, they're a bit different. Again, Syrup, the prospect of us going towards 68 cent is quite high. Again, same with Wealthy Financial. It's a decently, again, it's not a new coin, but it's decently kind of new, I suppose. So from there, realistically, I think we have a lot more room to not move exactly how the market's moving, right? So that being, we can go up when other things are going down. We can go to 14.5 cent when things are going down. So I do still want to see 14.5. And if we really look at what we have going on, we have a low, we have a high, we have a lower low on the weekly. We want to see a structural lower high. If we look at the range we are, what do we see of equilibrium? 14.38. Now, very importantly about this range, which I really like, is these extension lines and these highs and lows are being used very, very good. This is a very, very good usage of the range. We're on the 729 here. Very good usage. So what's quite convenient is to see that the equilibrium is sitting basically where the actual true equilibrium should be of the ranges. So the respect of these lines and the respect of these ranges is perfect. So this is kind of very good news for me to talk about because it means if we go to the daily 4 hour and look at the ranges, I can almost guarantee every point where we can see the respective gap, fair value gaps, liquidity voids, breaker blocks, I can almost guarantee we will be using these areas. And that's just what it is. So equilibrium, I guarantee we're going to be using these equilibrium areas. We have a gap here. We do need to go to a higher range. I don't want to see it on a higher range here to see what we have. So we can see we have fair value gap range here. We also have liquidity void for this whole kind of area going on. So we kind of want to be drawing kind of green candles to green candles. We can see that's about there. So we can see midpoint about 14 cent as well for this kind of whole range. So again, nonetheless though, on this wider range, 13.9968, we have this gap, right? If it goes to daily. So I do definitely think we'll be using this once more. I know we've already used it once. I don't care. We'll use it again. 14.19 to 14.65. Obviously, big old weekly resistances as well, and all these sorts of things. But I do want to see this area again. That's just kind of what it is. We also have this breaker block range, so we can probably look to see if we've formed any support points, which will now be resistance, for example. So what this will look like would be a down close candle which gets printed through. So do we see anything of that sort, down close, which gets printed through? We could probably argue that these three candles, we can see a bit of an area. Actually, are we still in breaker block though in that range? No, we're not. So we need to be looking in this range here. So we can kind of see potentially we've got kind of these up close which didn't really get printed through too properly. We had a bit of a gap here. Apart from that, I'm not seeing much in the way of. Okay, we do actually. We have this candle here. We can see we use this candle, we come into this gap with this down close candle, we then printed through it with these green. We can see we use that midpoint here at 12.81 very nicely here. And then from there, we obviously then dumped through. So actually, let's see how the candle body got used as well. I want to see that because it's a bit smaller. Candle body's still good. I might use candle body just so it's a bit neater. So not only do we have that area, that explains. Okay, this isn't in the breaker block area, to be fair. This whole range, I do need to draw it a bit higher. So it kind of explains the usage of this breaker block. So again, the high is about 13.36, but now that when we really look at it, we don't have much getting towards 14.6. So we've already used this area. We've already used this area of resistance. We're not saying we can't use it again, but it's not really of importance to the 14. I'm trying to find things which lie on top of this area to see how much confidence we have. But other than that, I don't really have much in the way of that. So I've tried to find as much here as possible to talk about new for Wealthy Financial. There's not much though. So that's kind of it for Wealthy Financial. I still think we'll see 14.5 cent-ish. I think structurally on the lower time frame, we're doing decently. I do want to see hopefully a reversal soon, as to not print past 10.14. If we do print past the 10.14 and see difficulty, then it will be. I mean, look at how we are on the 4 hour. We have massive expansion, very slow retracement, and we have a massive expansion. The balance of distribution between what we have on the way upwards and what we have on the way downwards, it's night and day. We have super expansion, slow trail downwards into our bottom gap and support here at 10.39. So yeah, anyways, I'm just kind of speaking for the sake of it. So let's see how it goes. I'm very excited to see how we move into Saturday. I will be actually we have the Yikes market watch. We're going to be streaming with Yikes on Saturday, so I don't know if I'm going to be doing my my chart stream. I don't know for sure how I'm going to be doing that. I don't know exactly what time collectively we're streaming. I'm sure it's probably already been set up by then. It might overlap during my chart stream. Maybe I'll cover Bitcoin during the stream though, which will be at least somewhat of TA. If not, I'll be back on Monday. So you've only got a few days to wait till Monday. So by the time Monday comes, I personally think by the time Monday comes, we'll probably have somewhat of what we've talked about happen, right? So we'll see how it goes. But I need to stop moving away from the micro and I apologize. We've ordered Shure SM7Bs, the creme de la creme of microphones. Unfortunately, they've I would have liked to have streamed with it at some point soon, but it's been delayed and all sorts of stuff. I would have liked to have had it by Saturday for the Yikes stream, but I don't think we might have it into next week, which will be nice nonetheless. So yeah, look forward to that. Look forward to some beautiful audio, because again, the cameras are fine, it looks all right. I do think we need some beautiful audio, and again, what matters more, looking good or sounding good? And again, you can see my charts. It's streaming in 1920 by 1080. That's fine. as long as you can see the chart and hear me good, which is the key part. So I'm very excited to have this coming. Initial jobless claims came in lower than expected. That's very good. It's come out. It's come out. Is my calendar backwards? No, it's not. Why does this say today? It's Friday. Well, what's going on? Okay, either way, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Whatever. Initial job claim. That's good though. Maybe. Oh, shit, this is. Isn't this the pre-fire of the day? I'm pretty sure this is the pre-fire, right? I don't know. Either way, it's positive. Potentially. So it was. So people claiming jobless claims. 212 was previous. It was expected to be 215. It's now 213. So it's better. I think the kind of idea is if it's better than consensus, then it's a positive thing, even though it's still more negative than what it was previously because it's gone up by 1,000. So yeah, either way, I think that's positive because of the forecast to actual, which means it's a positive. Which guess what? What do we want to happen? We want to go higher. What do we need to go higher? Positive stuff. What do we just have positive data? Let's go. Here we come. $1 million Bitcoin. Here we come. All right. Thank you, all of you, for watching. Really appreciate you joining. I'll be back on Saturday with Mike and Yikes to do a very nice Market Watch stream. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. I'll see you guys then. See you guys on Telegram. Thank you. Goodbye.